of representing my hero, Bradley Manning. And I think I will sport an award that I got from a former Grand Marshal, Joey Kane, for the Bradley Manning Grand Marshal at the Gate Pride Parade. Very proud moment for me. I'm especially impressed, by the way, Dan Choi, my friend, was talking about identity, and I want to say a few words about that tonight. Something fairly serious, but one aspect is that this event is helping me in an identity problem I've had for more than a decade now, almost a couple of decades, and that is in my self-identity as a lifelong Democrat. To have a Democratic club, at last, maybe the only one, recognize Bradley Manning as a patriot and a hero, could almost make me proud to be a Democrat again.
All right. Way to go, Mr. Ellsberg.
I say almost, but it would take more than It's been a long period of looking at timidity and passivity, virtual cowardice, and what I've always thought of as my party. As a Jew like myself, who is critical of Netanyahu or Likud and Greater Israel, can expect, and I have
just what we were talking about, right?
Of being called a self-hating Jew. And that just rolls off my back. That's ridiculous, and I brush that off. But if someone were to call me a self-hating Democrat, that would be harder to refute. I certainly would be proud to be a member of this club. I heard a recruiting pitch here, and I would, it got to recruit here. So, this is the right thing. I would give, it is a Democratic administration, of course, who allowed Bradley Manning to spend 3 years prior to trial, 10.5 months in isolation, solitary confinement, called by the UN Rapporteur for torture, cruel, at least cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. That's
absolutely
a shame for Democrats, a shame for America that that's happened. We're talking about a man who should not spend a day in jail, who deserves the gratitude of his country, Bradley Manning. And another one who was inspired in part by Bradley Manning and learned from his example, and that's Edward Snowden. This administration is pursuing around the world, and our Democratic president is lecturing Putin, no particular friend of liberty or democracy or anything, but telling him that he should return a fugitive from justice. Well, that doesn't describe Edward Snowden. He's a fugitive from injustice.
There you go. Fugitive from injustice.
He has to do this, to tell us the truth about NSA, the National Security Agency, and the fact that they're listening to all of our communications, the content as well as the metadata. Everybody here, everybody in the country.
They're probably here now.
Fort Meade, where Bradley Manning is facing a life sentence.
I'm sure Daniel Ellsberg has a lifetime subscription.
Entirely, obviously,
they follow him everywhere.
Time for somebody who identifies, especially as I do, with Bradley Manning. He is facing closing arguments, I think, tomorrow. He'll have a couple of weeks of sentencing. He has, I'm sorry to say, every prospect of experiencing a large part of the sentence that Richard Nixon had in mind for me, which was a life sentence at that time. My trial was ended by the revelation of government misconduct. Well, against me, it's no secret, no revelation that there's been misconduct against Bradley Manning with his 10.5 months in solitary, largely making, as I said, this outrageous charge of aiding the enemy, capital offense. The trial should have been ended long before this for that reason. Instead, his judge, who will be sentencing him shortly, not only didn't drop the aiding the enemy charge, but after hearing the outrageous treatment of Bradley Manning in my old base of Virginia, the Marine base there, did take some time off his sentence. 112 days off his possible life plus 184 years. He'll get 112 days off of that sentence if he were to get it. So the whole thing is a mockery of justice, as a matter of fact, and Snowden is exactly right to be outside the country in order to tell us what we need to know. I would give almost anything to have Bradley here tonight, a free man, to receive this award, or to have him almost anywhere but where he is, at Fort Meade, and facing the sentence that he is facing. Venezuela or Ecuador or anywhere it might be. I am very unhappy at the prospect of what he does, in fact, is likely to face. But he not only has done a number of achievements here, one of them being to inspire Edward Snowden, by the way, by his civil courage, but others that I won't go into tonight that I think he deserves a lot of gratitude for. But I want to just draw on what Dan Choi was saying a little bit more about identity, because I think Manning not only shows us an alternative meaning to the identity of American and patriot, and gay, and man, and various things, not just an alternative, but points a direction that this species must go in, and in particular, the male half of the species, the male part of the species. Bradley, as you undoubtedly know, is confronting the question in his own mind of whether he represents T here as well as gay, as well as G. He has at the least ambivalent feelings about appearing as a man. But the fact is that he shows a kind of characteristic that men in the world, and not only Americans, must learn from in the sense of what it means to be a man and what the requirements of masculinity really are. Unless the character, the image of masculinity changes from what it has been for thousands of years and what it is right now in this country, in other words. First, not gay, not unmanly. In other words, to be a man is a requirement, almost, to be not womanly in any way, not caring, not nurturing, and above all, not gay. Essentially to be homophobic or appear homophobic, even if in your heart you aren't. I would say that I worked for a president, Lyndon B. Johnson, whose biographer Doris Kearns said that what made him do what he knew in his own heart was hopeless and murderous was a fear of appearing an unmanly man if he didn't do it. Appearing weak, appearing 58,000 Americans died and millions of Vietnamese because Lyndon Johnson and other Democrats who knew that the Vietnam War was a disaster and a wrongful war could not bring themselves to be accused of such words as being weak on terrorism, weak on communism, now weak on terrorism. Same thing with Iraq. Those people died also because there was no Bradley Manning, no Edward Snowden, with the courage, the civil courage, to tell the truth and to put out documents about where we were going at that time. 4,000 Americans and perhaps between 100,000 and 1 million civilians, many of them exposed, their deaths exposed by Bradley Manning, died in Iraq for a very similar reason. The Democrats, whether in the opposition or not, could not bring themselves to be manly in the sense of standing up to authority and doing what they thought was right in the way that Bradley Manning has done. So I want to say then that congratulations to the Harvey Milk Club for honoring him in this way, but much more broadly, I hope that the world will learn that manliness must change its meaning in the direction that Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden have pointed to us.
Great perspective.
They are American patriots, but they are also patriots of humanity. Bradley Manning is a credit to the human